Living in America, we experience what it's like to live in a flat world. We began the first stages of globalization over 200 years ago. Since then, we underwent the industrial era, which corresponds with globalization 2.0, and currently we are in globalization 3.0, which focuses on the growth of individuals. However, this is not the case for all countries. Not everyone is living in a flat world. Iran, North Korea, and Vietnam are all examples of countries that are currently living in unflat worlds. All of these countries are still having troubles achieving globalization 1.0 due to their land and sea disputes. They also experience a lack of participation on a global scale, which prohibits them from achieving, assuming they had even achieved 1.0. Even if they had achieved globalization 1.0 or 2.0, they still couldn't achieve globalization 3.0 due to the government censorship, which infringes on one's ability to be an individual. According to Friedman, globalization 1.0 is defined as the globalization of countries. Unfortunately, none of these countries have their borders set in stone. Iran has land and sea disputes on all of their borders. If you show them a map of the world and show them Iran, they would disagree with where the border lines are drawn. They also argue over who owns the sea and has rights to it. Due to this, they have yet to achieve globalization 1.0. North Korea also has the same problem, but theirs is due to the fact that North Korea isn't an actual country. Yes, they are living in a country, but that country is actually Korea. Unfortunately, we view the country of Korea as having two distinct regions, north and south. Just like Iran, in the northern region of Korea, Vietnam also has land disputes. Their problems arise over whether they or Cambodia have rights to and control to offshore islands. Cambodia also accuses Vietnam of infringing on Cambodia's borders. Unfortunately for these countries, they are still in the process of achieving globalization 1.0. Let's assume for a moment, though, that Iran, North Korea, and Vietnam didn't have border disputes and that they had achieved globalization 1.0. This would then mean that they are in the process of achieving globalization 2.0. In order to do this, they would need to participate on a global scale. Unfortunately, none of these countries fully participate on a global scale. Iran would like to participate, but they also resent the Western culture and want to remain an Islamic republic. These two wants cannot coexist with one another. An Islamic republic is highly conservative, whereas Western civilization is very liberal in comparison. North Korea is the complete opposite. They have no interest with becoming involved with the rest of the world. They do not trade with any nation except for China, and that is out of necessity rather than actually wanting to. North Korea is essentially their own world with how uninvolved and sheltered they are. In more recent years, Vietnam has become more involved in global affairs. However, they still have major trading restriction in regards to agriculture with the U.S. Agriculture is the main source of income for Vietnam, so this has a big impact. Without opening their trade restrictions, they cannot fully participate in global trading. Imagine for a moment that everything I said previous to this was false, and these nations had achieved both globalization 1.0 and 2.0. This would put them on the path to achieving globalization 3.0. Globalization 3.0 is the growth of the individual. This happened in the U.S. around the same time we gained the use of cell phones and computers. We were able to get our own voices out in the world and also hear what others had to say by the click of a button. Unfortunately, Iran, North Korea, and Vietnam all cannot grow as individuals due to the governmental censorship in their nations. In Iran, if you blogged on the internet and protest to a government official or about the corruption that occurs within the government, then you will be killed. No question about it. The government will kill you for expressing your opinion. The Iranian government has also put restrictions on internet access. The major occurrences of restrictions occur in the categories of adult, the arts, news, and society. North Korea is also horribly censored. The government has put restrictions on their people's internet search engines. These restrictions were put in place to make sure people cannot learn about the world around them and the surrounding nations. The government's goal in North Korea in regard to censorship is to keep their people blind to the outside world and therefore hinder their growth as individuals. In Vietnam, the government also exhibits extreme censorship. They don't necessarily kill their citizens for speaking out against the communist government or corruption within it, but they will send those citizens to prison. Vietnam has some of the highest rates for bloggers being sent to jail. For being a country on the verge of becoming a modern nation, this is absurd. Vietnamese citizens are unable to express themselves publicly and therefore cannot advance as individuals. Living in an unflat world is hard to imagine for Americans, but it's a reality that millions of people face every day. The people of North Korea, Iran, and Vietnam all have yet to feel what it's like to achieve various levels of globalization. They have yet to become globalized countries, participate on a global level, and have the opportunity to grow as individuals. Without any of these key events, they cannot live in a flat world.